Welcome to Behind the Bars, where we bring the unseen and the unheard stories from the depths of the prison system to the forefront. I'm your host, Jason Boss, and together we'll explore the madness, the chaos, and the harsh realities hidden behind the steel doors of prisons worldwide. From the local jailhouse to death row across the world, we'll show you the isolation, the seclusion, and the decades spent enduring unimaginable conditions. These are the stories of survival, struggle, and humanity in places most of us will never see. We're here to shine a light on what society often forgets, the voices of the incarcerated. Each story is real, each voice is authentic, and every moment reveals the raw, unfiltered truth of life behind the bars. Join me for a journey like no other, a journey into the darkness, the truth, and the resilience of the human spirit. This is Behind the Bars, real life, real stories.
All right, everybody, ladies and gentlemen, friends and family, I have with me a very good friend. His name is Barry Chappell. He is the Wild West gunman from Tombstone, Arizona. He was around 60 years old when he did the crime. I believe he's been incarcerated now for about over 10 years. And with me today, I am thankful that he spends his time and is able to sit and talk with us for a little bit. So directly live from the prison cells of Arizona, my friend Barry Chappell, how are you doing?
Good day, brother. How are you doing?
I'm good. Another day out here in the land of the free. You have another day in the land of the locked away, and it's definitely
crazy people
with crazy people, right? So
absolutely.
I think that would be actually a good topic to talk about. And this week I've been talking to a lot of guys down in Texas. And we've been talking a lot about violence inside of the prisons and the way things are happening. And I guess it's so bad even over in Texas that just the other day, a couple of guards squared off. It was a black guard and a white guard, and they started duking it out. And nobody knew exactly what it was over, but that is the tension and what I started to call the rhythm of the prison environment. Can you take me through some of that, the rhythm of your prison? And when we talk about, like crazy people, right, we're dealing with all walks of life people, and some of these people are a little touched. Some of these guys have some problems, and so everybody is stuck in the same can with these guys, and so everybody's problem becomes everybody's at some level. So, Barry, take me through just the whole gambit of that.
Well, I can give you a little nutshell of it. You know, your scriptures in 2 Timothy chapter 3 talks about how people will be in the last days, and it's a fair description of what it's like in here because they don't call it the devil's playground for nothing. And once even the guards get into this environment, I can see what would roll about on them, and create stress between even the guards themselves because the atmosphere, it's just like humidity. It gets into your bones whether you realize it or not.
Mm-hmm.
So we had a guy removed from this very part I was in last week who fits the description of mentally unbalanced, let's say that way. He was much into the beat of a shepherd drum for sure, and they had to remove him because last night he was in here actually was praying for his cellies that lived through the night because that guy was tearing the place up and clean up the next day. And thankfully, they removed him. Who knows where he's at? They probably just put him in another complex where they really need to see a psychiatrist and have drugs administered to get these people back on track. But it's a warehouse. It's a money machine. And the violence is just part of the machine. Drugs, and violence.
So
and
how long? Go ahead.
No, it's just like I said, people in here, it's a microcosm of what it is. The scriptures talk about people be lovers of self, no self-control, and much less any respect between other people. It's just, and the outside world, you can kind of segregate yourself from those kind of people.
Mm-hmm.
many years after 9/11, I moved my family basically off the grid, not so much the electrical grid, but away from the population.
Mm-hmm.
And I would have been there to this day if my wife hadn't got sick and moved me out west.
Mm.
But in here, you have to learn how to deal with it and deal with the frustrations of it each day. There's nothing you can escape in here.
So tell me about your pod a little bit. How many cells are there in that pod, and how many total of you are there?
Well, there's let's see, I think it's 60, and you put 2 in each one, so it's about 120 people in this pod. And if you imagine a tennis court with double-decker housing all around it, and the cells about like they are in the bathroom.
So,
You live in that with 100 other people.
Okay. So you have it's a 2-man dorm style, and it essentially, if it was a like a tennis court and double decker, there's just doors, and it's like multiple stairs. You guys climb stairs to get from one level to the next, right?
Yes.
And how many levels are there?
The court will be the common area. The cells on 3 sides line the court where the tables are, people can talk or whatever, exercise. And the open end is, of course, not open. It's got the bars and the door that's locked. And we're locked in cells during count and overnight, of course.
Mm-hmm. And what time do they pop your doors in the morning?
5 a.m.
Okay, so does everybody, what does that look like, 5 a.m.? Does everybody get up, or some people sleep through it?
Oh, there's always the ones that stay up all night that sleep in the day, and I'd say about half and half,
Mm-hmm.
So half of them, for example, whenever the trays were brought in-house a couple of weeks ago, and we were slammed down for 6 days because of a homicide on the yard, we had to have meals in the house, and I would collect the trays because I'm a porter. And
you're a what?
half the trays wouldn't be back because they was up in their houses not sleeping, and they weren't eating their food for breakfast.
Okay, and you said you were a porter? Is that what that word is?
A porter, like I clean up and pick up the trays and mop and sweep the trash.
Like a janitor guy.
Absolutely.
Okay, and so you have the special privilege of this janitorial thing?
Well, yeah, I've been the highest, what they call phase 3. They have 1 through 3. Phase 3 have no tickets, no disciplinary, and they're allowed to have those jobs, which I have the grand total of, I work 30 hours per week, and I get paid $7 per week.
Okay, and so the state pays you then somehow?
Yeah, I get that's what it's called, state pay, and it shows up on my books every 2 weeks. Like today, I got $14.25 for the last 2 weeks.
Okay, and so what does that job entail? What does it take to make that money?
Oh, I sweep the floors, I mop the floors, I pick up the trash, clean the microwaves, keep the sinks clean. Just a janitor. That's a good description.
And how often? When do you have to start this? How much time a day does this take?
I have 5 hours each day.
You have 5. You said 5. 5 hours a day.
Yeah, but I don't usually have to work that long. I can go out there doing a couple of hours.
Okay.
So,
are there others of you that are in this cleaning squad that do this?
Well, there's other people that get paid in here, yeah.
What do they?
I don't know about others.
So,
their job, yeah.
What do others get paid in there for? What kind of jobs do they have?
Well, I have some that are outside on the grounds that keep the grounds picked up. And they have some that work in the laundry. And, of course, they have the kitchen personnel. And the kitchen personnel, especially the cooks, probably get a little higher pay because it is a skilled position. Then they have the teachers' aides. the library clerks, which I personally was a library clerk about 3 or 4 years ago, and I loved it because I got to get all these books in and read, and that's how I come across a little book they called Publish the Name of Yahuwah, and that changed my life.
Amazing. So, so all these guys have jobs. Does everybody in your pod in there have jobs, or is it just a select few of you guys?
No. I would say probably a dozen.
Oh, okay.
So you'd probably say about 10%.
And do other inmates look at you differently because you have this job? Are you harassed because you work for them?
No, not really, but most of them that do make comments, they're like, man, you're the only one that does anything in here. I'm OG, of course, which for those people who know what that means is an original gangster. But I look at it like an old guy. I'm not really a gangster.
Barry, you mowed a individual down with a gun in the broad daylight like a gangster guy. I think you qualify as a gangster at this point. You may not feel like it, but I believe you qualify as one.
I would call it as a gunfighter on a mission of vengeance. They would have called me a vigilante back in the day.
Okay, awesome. Okay, so
I fit the description of a vigilante a little more because I went that day for a gunfight. It just, turned out like it was,
Well, you know, your mugshot, you look like this old gunfighter. You look like somebody straight out of the Wild West. I mean, you put a cowboy hat on you. I mean, that dude,
I was told that many a time. In fact, I had a nice lady from Safford, Arizona that come over, and she took a bunch of photos, and she said, I only pack real cowboys, and I just did a show that come off of a hit. She said, yes, ma'am. It's your lucky day you found a real McCoy.
All right. So here, what time do you start your janitorial stuff in the morning?
I do it as soon as I get my shower. I gotta get my shave, my shower off the bat. Then I go out there and work. Then I get me a little rinse off shower before I lock down at 10:30.
So what you do is your job is that pod, right? The pod that you live in. That's where you go out and clean.
That's my. I carry the trash outside the pod when the doors are open and sit it on the sidewalk for the outside trash porters to carry it to the compactor for it to be hauled away.
What do you think about when you go through that door, carrying that trash out?
Fresh air.
Fresh air. Right. All right, so you're cleaning all day. How many phones does this pod have for you guys?
It probably has, each pod has like 7 or 8 phones, but since we are set up with these tablets now, not many people use the phones as it used to be. Because, like I say, these tablets, you can phone inside the privacy of your cell. It's a lot quieter, as you can probably imagine. Right.
And now, the pod that you're in is for elderly or for good behavior people. Is that correct?
I wish.
No. Okay. So that's.
It's a mixed bag.
Okay.
There's a potpourri of crazy people in here. Hopefully, I should say.
You have 1 minute left.
Yeah. So how does that work in there? I mean, do they just come in and you guys discover they're crazy? Do they become crazy after time? What does it look like becoming crazy in there?
Well, those kind of separate themselves, and if it gets too bad, it's highly suggested to the security people to have them removed for their own benefit, or they will get smashed out of here.
So people will get put up with, they'll just be done with it, and they will they'll just beat them up.
Yeah, if it gets to that point. Yeah.
Okay, so let's go down the road of let's talk about what you have seen over the course of your time there on mental rehabilitation in people that are locked up, and the people that eventually kind of go, a little crazy. What does that look like? What's happening to these people to where some are mentally able to be okay and do an extended amount of time, and those who crack, and what does that look like?
Well, I'll give you a perfect example. At least 6 years ago, I had an episode where I'd been at the time almost 5 years, and the stress of just the judgment and the confinement and the environment you're in, each person reaches a breaking point where they have to either get the crap together or, go crazy, I guess. And as I'm a lifer, I actually had my breakdown one night, and I had to call out to the Father's help. He's the one, not me, that took me on a path to give me purpose. And that's what people in here have to do, is get a purpose. And if they don't, these drugs, they fall into this, I would say, a gang mentality where they will cluster in little groups of like-minded individuals, whether it's and the phenomena of trannies, you could say, is one of the recent ones, where the transsexuals have little cliques. Then you have, of course, the drug use. That's the biggest cliques. Mm-hmm. And it's broken down by age groups and races. And, of course, I'm in what they call integrated housing now, where the races are housed with each other. I've had I've housed with the Native Americans, Afro-Americans, Chicanos, the Paisas, which are foreign national Mexicans, and even half Filipino guy one time, which he claims to be Wood, which that's what the whites are called. But it's you drop into little cliques. Of course, they have a little Christian clique, which most of them, I just call them cross-wearers because they're not really Christians. They cross-wear the little crosses and do what they do. They believe they're saved. I don't know what they believe, to be honest with you. But it's just everybody pulls into a little clique, and they either get a positive reason to live or just stay spun out and drugged out and bounce around, and here they get out. I've been really blessed that where I've been given a purpose, and it's kept my mind pretty much sane. I do have times of stress and frustration, for sure. That's just part of this lifestyle.
I was watching an interview with this old warden, and he was talking about that. He said it takes people either somewhere between 1 to 7 years for those who are on life who end up there, for them to actually get the realization and to accept that this is the last place that they will live. This is where they will make their dying days. Does that sound like a fair assessment from what he said? Does that sound right?
I would say he's spot on with that, because it took me right about 4.5 to 5 years to come to that point. And when I did, I realized that it wasn't within myself to cope, because I had questioned why I was in here. If I was full of blues, butterfly, a mission from God that day to take out of that person, that why am I spending the rest of my life locked up? But once you get to that point of breaking, you either call a high power or low, and that's just the way it is. You either get the crap together, or you just, some people don't ever get together. I know people in here that never will be right. And it's not an opinion, that's just an observation of what goes on in here. Mm-hmm. I feel for them, but I understand it. It's hard to criticize someone when you know the pressures that they're under in here. And, of course, whenever you're in here, your family, you're ostracized from your family, and whether or not you have family contact makes also a big part of survival and coping in here, actually, because if you have support from family members, you have a purpose to keep your crap together for them, if nothing else. And when these people are getting out in a few years, that support of something way positive out there is a goal, I would think, to get out and do right. But when the family just drops people completely for whatever reasons that may be justified, I don't know. These people seem to be live for today and to hell with tomorrow, you know.
Now, how many?
That's just what it is.
Yeah, right. How many lifers are you around? Is everybody in your tier life, or are there guys getting out all the time?
They set me up with a guy that literally got out on the 19th of February. He was in my cell for almost 3 weeks, which was a huge blessing because I got to introduce him to the way of Messiah, you know. And he's actually written me and actually sent 20 books, which is a rare thing.
Wow.
And he was, he's, you know, doing good out there. He's in the halfway house, I guess would be the best description for it. Trying to get his legal and financial and probably, you know, his personal life out there together before he jumps back out into society, you know. And I'm going to do my best. I've written him twice, you know. And hopefully I can keep writing him and keep giving him a positive word, you know.
Now, how many... go ahead.
The lifers in here, if I had to guess, I would say it's less than 20%. Okay. And
probably
educated guess.
Now, those of you who are life, do you know those in your pot of 160 people who are life?
No, because if they want you to know, they'll tell you. And if they don't want you to know, they don't mention it. So it's like a no tell, you know, don't ask, you know, situation. But I'm one of them crazy people that come in here, and so it's nothing to hide. Everybody sees everything. I don't have nothing to hide, so I tell them, well, yeah, I'm doing natural life. I'm going out in the body bag, you know. It's the only way I hear people.
Now, do you do any kind of like card playing or chess playing or any kind of stuff out with the fellas?
Nope.
Nothing.
Well, I think someone said it pretty well.
You what? Hold on. You said what?
Company corrupts good character.
What did you say right before? You did what? Very well.
I said the Apostle Saul, which is probably called Paul. He said that bad company corrupts good character. And that here we have another. Well, those others say it says if you sleep with the dogs, you're going to have fleas, and that's just the truth of the matter. You know, you run with the wrong people, you get drugged into them situations, and I segregate myself from that, and I try to find a little light here and there, and go to the light. But there's too much darkness, so I segregate myself from most of it, which I've been questioning about that, but I got my time here to learning about the Father's plan for me and learning what I should do, that I can be a positive influence on anyone else if I can. And a very wise man one time told me that, you know, because John 6:44 says, no one, the Messiah tells us, no one can come to me unless the Father who sent me drags them. Well, says draws, but it actually means drag. So if somebody wants to go to the light, they'll find who's a light in here. And I've had people find me, and those people I spend money and time on. And now I'll run copies of stuff and send it to them. And even send it to people, you know. And you might know I send you stuff too, but
now
it's just my little tithing.
Yeah. How many?
My way of tithing.
Right. Yeah. Absolutely. How many fights do you see on a monthly basis in there?
Well, the fights actually, they go into little private areas for that. Now, I see the consequences of it almost daily. Black eyes, busted lips, you know. As far as it's a rare thing for them to break out in a common area or around people because there's cameras everywhere. It's kind of like you go into someone's cell or something like that, or a shower, and take care of business, you know. That's how 90% of that stuff sounds. Well, it does. I've been in a chow line and it break out into a fight. I was at a place one time that the big riot broke out, and we was locked down for 17 days, and it was because someone cut in line. That's what I'm saying. The stress in here gets to people, and it don't take one little spark to start a big fire in here.
Yeah, there's a lot of respect and a lot of disrespect, and it seems like when people cross that line, it becomes a big problem.
And I have to constantly ask for forgiveness. I was brought up to respect my elders and to show respect to people. And it's hard to show that when you don't get anything in return. But that's me.
Yeah. Now,
I try to be an example.
Right. Well, you know, speaking of being an example, you know, we don't have a lot of time left on this particular podcast. You know, what kind of positive things can you leave, or what kind of wisdom can you leave for the people out there based on your life, your road, your experiences, you know, for those that are possibly, you know, down and deep into the pits of drugs and doing some things? What can you tell people from your examples?
Well, I would say if I was out there in the world and I would find the person I respected most that would, not as far as money, that doesn't mean anything, as far as morally and spiritually if possible, and try to be with people that's positive, because if you run with people that's negative, you're going to be in a negative situation before you know it. That's just the way it rolls. But when it's like, even if you have to go to a church, it's better than a bar, you know. Even though I have problems with some things, but at least you have to. The water seeks its own level. It's such a, you know, with people. You run with bad people, bad things are going to happen to you. So you need to try to stay with good people wherever you can find them.
So avoid.
And that's my advice towards the course of Scripture.
Yes.
Because it's all there. Most people call the Bible a rule book, but it's actually a guidebook. It'll get you where you want to go if you read it and follow it.
Absolutely. All right, Barry, my friend, I thank you very much for being a part of this podcast, being on Behind the Bars. Guys, there's an address to write Barry. You can also write him on Securus. It's all in the description below. Barry, thank you very much for being on this podcast.
You're welcome.
All right, brother. Have a good one. All right.
All right, I'll talk to you later, bro.
Okay. All right.